Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask the CEO with Avrohom. Today, I'd like to introduce a very special guest. He is the Chief Growth Officer at KenSci, a company whose platform allows healthcare organizations to tap into the vast amounts of data and transform them into AI-led insights. As part of this discussion, we will share how their partnership with Microsoft, their use of Azure, and the Azure Marketplace have empowered them to scale and grow their business. It is my pleasure to welcome Sunny Neogi. Welcome, Sunny.
Thank you, Avrohom. Happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. Sunny, healthcare is starting to see major transformations with industry leaders increasingly embracing technologies such as cloud and artificial intelligence. What are some of the key data and infrastructure challenges that healthcare providers and payers deal with when starting out on their journey to innovate on the cloud?
That's a fantastic place to start. Just for some context, we work with a lot of very large health systems across the world, including US, where we work with CDC, NHS, and folks in Singapore, right? And no matter where we go, we see this fundamental paradigm change, right? Wherein we are used to thinking of our healthcare as episodic things along a line, right? Dots on a line, you fall sick, something happens, you look at the data and you change certain things. But what's happening now is people are thinking of this as a loop. And much like Netflix is, right? Saying, if this happened to you, this is likely what's going to happen to you, right? So you're seeing data from a lot of other patients. You are seeing data about yourself saying, this happened, then I did this and this thing changed, right? And that impact is massive in context of, chronic diseases like diabetes or heart failure and so forth, because it's just not what happens to you today, but what's going to happen to you for 20 years going forward, right? So, that change in thinking about healthcare from a, dots on a straight line to a loop that stays on with you for a long, long time, right? Creates new challenges for data. Meaning that, it's not like you're going to spend your entire lifetime in one place seeing the same doctor. You're going to move between institutions, between health systems, between countries even, right? So how do you bring all the data together? How do you look and, compare the data against what happened to you earlier, what's happening to similar patients like you today? And that's something Netflix does really well. And we are seeing the same construct move over to healthcare and healthcare data in particular.
And you know what? I mean, exactly like what you say, because right now we're in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, for example, and we don't even have to get that dramatic. I mean, just dealing with regular ailments such as chronic fatigue syndrome, for example, an ailment that there is no known cure, at least for most people, and people are going through many different challenges with regards to that. They're seeing doctor after doctor, and we're looking at this at a narrow scope. We're looking at an individual with their symptoms, but it's something that like you said a few minutes ago, where not just what's happening to this patient, but what's happening to similar patients. And if you're able to correlate the data from different patients, as well as taking that into context with a person's individual lifestyle, where you come from, what are your genetics, where have you been, where you're headed, that'll put us in a totally different place.
You bet. And, our business's core mission is to predict, who's going to fall sick, how sick are they going to get, what kind of diseases are they going to get, and then how much it's going to cost. And most importantly, what's the right way to take care of that patient, knowing that that patient is going to go this way versus this way, right? So these are exciting times, not just in healthcare, but the intersection of healthcare, cloud, data, AI, and all these amazing, innovations that has been happening in parallel are kind of converging. And, speaking of coronavirus, it's a fantastic, and I say it, in a light way, is a fantastic testing for bringing together all this data. Who is what CDC is doing today is aggregating data from all these countries. And, it's a common parlance today saying, hey, US is 10 days behind Italy, right? And imagine now establishing that same kind of dialogue with diabetes patients, saying you are 10 quarters behind that patient who had a kidney failure. What are you going to do today to change that outcome, right? That's coming to healthcare soon and now.
The core of the entire solution is data. So in response to the rapidly growing amounts of electronic healthcare data, there is a new data standard to help simplify the management of health data called FHIR, spelled FHIR, which stands for Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources. Now, Microsoft recently launched an Azure API for FHIR. What is that, and how does it support the healthcare innovation?
Oh, it's at the heart of healthcare innovation, right? As you think about, how two different entities share data today, right? Let's take a very simple example. If you go down to your, local hospital, right? Quite likely they have their data stored in their unique way, right? They said this is how we need it, and this is how we are going to keep it, which is all fine, right? But the problem happens when patients jump from one health system to another, or a claim goes from one party to another, third party, right? How do you really bring it all together? Suppose you are seeing a specialty physician for your heart condition, but you have a primary care physician for your general health, right?
It's all over the place.
All over the place, right? And it's okay. But the problem is, what we're realizing is that when you can bring all of that together, the amount of value you get is the network effect of data that we have seen in retail, that we have seen in pretty much every other industry. In healthcare, we are behind on that curve, right? Simply because these are such complicated execution processes that people have built their own little siloed gardens, right? So the government has stepped in and said, look, you can't continue to do that. You can store it any which way you can, but you have to make the data available to other people in a standard format so that anybody who connects into that format can access that data if you give them permission to, right? And what Microsoft is doing is seminal in this space, right? What they have done is saying, look, we have built this amazing infrastructure called Azure, and then we're going to build the API for healthcare data using FHIR to make sure that our customers, Microsoft's customer, healthcare customers, right, can access that data at cloud scale, right? And there are these two amazing things happening there. One is accessing the data in a standard format so that, no matter who you are, you can see the data and, do a handshake in a standard format, right? And the second thing is you can do this at cloud scale. And as you think about it, 300 million people accessing data between multiple systems, the complexity of storage and compute goes massively up, right? And there is no better way to do that than cloud, right? 20 years back, we could not have done that, right? Today we can look at, all the diabetic patients in US and see what's happening to them, in theoretically speaking, right? When everybody accepts and adopts the standards, that's where we will be saying, look, there are, 100 such patients exactly like you who have your body weight, who are in the same age group. This has happened to them over time. Not today, these are the same patients that were in the system 30 years back. This is what happened to them. This is your future. Now, what are you going to do as a doctor, as a patient, right? That's what it will unlock. And that's what Microsoft is doing with FHIR is so amazing. And we are embracing them. And I look forward to talking to you more about what we are doing with that.
Let's dig into that a little deeper. So let's talk about how your company, KenSci, is leveraging that Azure API for FHIR and launched a new managed service offering targeting the healthcare organizations. The offering is called Smart on FHIR-based Data and AI Accelerator. Can you share some information on how this AI accelerator will help simplify the transition of data to the cloud for healthcare organizations?
Absolutely. Right. And for us, the core problem we are collaborating to solve with Microsoft is the following, right? There are two parts to embracing FHIR. One is taking the data you have on legacy systems, whether it be on-prem or somewhere else, and moving it in a standardized format, right? And now it might be easy to think it's a one-time job. It is not. You're going to do this every day, all the time. Anytime you see a patient, admit, discharge, or transfer happens, a digital signature gets created, that needs to get transformed in a standard format, right? So it's less of a moving it one-time problem versus establishing a pipeline problem, right? Saying, how do I set this up so that it happens all the time, right? Not just for data, but also what you do with the data in terms of AI, analytics, machine learning, and so on and so forth, right? So it's really about establishing the pipeline, right? And what we have built with Microsoft is essentially a very simple box. What the box does is it brings together all the best set of services from Azure. The data services, the machine learning services, the data ingestion services, the security and governance services, which are, this is quite a lot of that, right? So, and just for some background, most of us came out of Microsoft. So we work closely with Microsoft and continue to do so with the product teams and the customer teams, right? And what we realize is that a lot of health systems are are confused at this point in time. Perhaps that's a strong word, but that's the reality, right? Because the pace of innovation in cloud has gone so far forward, and healthcare has traditionally been slightly slower than other industries in embracing that, right? So the cloud innovation is happening at this pace, and the healthcare systems are going at this pace, right? So how do you bridge that gap? And so what we did was we said, okay, here is a supermarket of Azure services. What are the 17 ingredients you need to stand this up, right? For a customer, figuring out those 17 ingredients is a 9-month journey. But we, with Microsoft product team, have basically said, this is what you need to cook this thing, right? It's like a prepackaged meal. So it comes with the 17 things, you put it on, and you connect the two ends together, and this thing works magically, right? That is what we have created together. That's what the managed service is. And we have taken the responsibility of making sure of two things. One is that the pipeline is working perfectly all the time, right? So we are monitoring that. We are using a bunch of Azure services for data quality, data, security, governance, all that kind of stuff, as well as we have made sure that it scales up, scales down based on how much traffic and how much volume you get, right? And that's really leveraging the cloud's economics, right? So that's what we are running as a managed service by bringing together the best of Azure and by bringing together a really wide glove service perspective to enable health systems to adopt FHIR really, really quickly.
Now, can you share some of the key features that this offering will have?
Yes. So, as we talk to our customers about the offering and what all it does, so instead of telling about the feature, let me tell you what our customers love about it. Perhaps that's a better perspective here, right? So, first and foremost, they love the simplicity of bringing all those complex architecture pieces together in a approved version, right? Saying, this is something that the Microsoft team has blessed, that we have put a lot of R&D behind, saying, what is the right configuration of various Azure services that solves this problem best. So the reference architecture is something the customers really, really call out, saying, this saves us, 4 months of whiteboarding and drawing and testing and figuring it out, right? So that's one. The second thing that our customers really love is the fact that, we help them bring the data to the cloud, right? Whether it's already on a cloud or it's on an on-prem system, we say, we will bring the data in a FHIR format on Azure, so you don't have to worry about it, right? We will get the tap started, right, of the data coming in a standardized format. Now, those are the two most important things that our customers love when they start. Now, as they get going, there are two other magical things that happen, right? One is, because now all the data is in a standard format, doing BI on that is pretty easy, because using Power BI and tools like that, if you have a good enough standardized data structure, you can quickly slice and dice the data in 30 different ways. And our customers are using that and Power BI to quickly get to the meat of the problem, saying, oh, I had all this data, I didn't know. That's one part, but I also have this bunch of things that are not per standard, right? There are always outliers in a large data set, right? Saying, why is this happening, right? Earlier, it was hard to figure that out because you couldn't get all the data together. Now that you have that, you can find variation, you can find outliers, you can quickly figure out the trends, right? And that is helping them figure out the key questions to ask, saying, where should I put my clinical investment? What should I take care of? Why am I losing so many patients to sepsis in this hospital on this day if the patients come from this kind of background, right? So, you can really go down to level 400, level 500 on, just understanding where you want to focus your clinical and technical, energy towards going forward based on data, not just based on opinion. So that's the third thing that, and we give our customers a dashboard to look at that very quickly. And, so that's the third part. The final part is in democratizing the data, right? Because once the data comes together in a standard format, everybody across the health system, whether a payer or a provider, if they have access, can look at that data and do their experiments and can try their BI or AI strategies out, right? Earlier, this used to be a 6-month problem, right? And I have worked with lot of large health systems where the data science team is stuck because they don't have the right security and the governance and the clearance, or they don't have the right kind of data in the common format to run a lot of experiments on, right? So really, democratizing the data with the governance on top of it is perhaps the fourth most important feature that our customers tell us about. And hopefully that helps answer that question.
Yeah, I got excited when I heard about the business intelligence, but this is all really exciting. I mean, it's one thing to have the data, but to be able to run insights, analytics, and then, like you said, the governance. You don't want everybody being able to access everything. That's a big part of it. In fact, that's like the bow on top of it that wraps up the package very neatly. So to expand upon that, healthcare is the most regulated industry in the United States, and security and compliance around data privacy is a really big deal. Can you share with us how the Microsoft and KenSci partnership together address these concerns around security and data privacy?
Yes, and that's a very broad question. So let me break that down, right? First up, healthcare data is our most precious data. It's the most private data we all possess, right? So I think anything that should work in healthcare needs to put data privacy, data security, data governance in the beginning, not as a post-facto thought process, right? And the good thing is, because we are building and leveraging Azure has thought this through very, very deeply. So, what certification do we need and what governance protocols do we need, right? So we build this based off on what's the best practice as embedded in Azure. So that's one part. The second part that we do really is that, when we deploy this accelerator, this gets deployed in our customers' infrastructure, right? So no data leaves their their network, right?
It's not on the cloud?
It is on the cloud. It is within their VPN. Right?
The private cloud.
Within their approved infrastructure. That's the way to put it, right? They are not giving a third-party vendor data to convert it into FHIR and bring it back. All this is happening inside their Azure, inside their cloud, that their CIO has blessed and said this is good, right? So so in that process, then in that most health systems have put in place very strict governance and data privacy protocols on top of that, right? So because the data stays within that infrastructure, we are not breaking that sort of firewall, so to speak, right? So the data stays under complete control of the enterprise data governance and security protocols, plus what Azure brings to the table, right? So that's a big advantage in doing it this way, saying I will deploy this accelerator inside a customer's infrastructure and it will all work within that. So the customer team can have complete control on who gets to see this, what level of access do they get, what kind of governance policies do you want to put in, and if they want to integrate with Active Directory, they can do that, and that sort of stuff, right? So it's really putting the control back in the customer's hand and not saying, you give me the data, I will do something magical and I'll give that back to you. It's us taking the accelerator inside their infrastructure and saying all this will happen there.
How do customers access this offering on the Azure Marketplace and get started working with it?
We have made it extremely easy and super simple for customers to access this offering. You go to Azure Marketplace, and the link is bit.ly/2v1lbaj, right? This link will take you to the Azure Marketplace. So it is approved by Microsoft. It's been blessed to be the best of breed solution. You go, you click, I want this, right? And it triggers a workflow where the package gets deployed in your Azure, but there is a small bonus involved in the process. Customers today can buy this against their enterprise agreement, so they don't even have to wait for a specific contract with KenSci to start leveraging this. They can, because this is hosted on Azure Marketplace as a transact offer, a customer can directly transact against their EA on Marketplace, and it will trigger a workflow where the solutions will get deployed. We will set up a conversation to guide them through how to do this. But it's really simple, really streamlined as to how a customer can go learn more about the solution, see the architecture, see the services we are using, and and if they have more questions, they can always reach out to us or their Microsoft account teams, and we would be happy to walk them through how this works in more details.
Great. Now, talking about the Microsoft KenSci partnership, how has partnering with Microsoft helped KenSci to scale and grow your business?
It has been a game changer, right? We are a relatively young company, and Microsoft has played a fantastic and significant role in helping us scale our business, not just in US, but also globally, right? So, working with Microsoft and their account teams, helping customers, common customers, embrace the promise of AI and data has been one of the, biggest thing I have taken away from my KenSci journey, right? And beyond that, just beyond working together with customers, we also are in a very privileged position to work very closely with the product teams, right? And Microsoft has been phenomenal in really embracing partners and saying, what are you hearing from customers? how can we change or improve our product? What else can we do to make this easier for you and for your customers to use this? What kind of questions are you getting? What else can we do on security and governance? And just the pace at which the Microsoft product team pushes this conversation, and the pace of innovation I was talking about earlier, right? Being part of that in that process has been amazing for us, because as a specific kind of a company who focuses on healthcare AI, right? We are very deep on the healthcare AI side, right? We are leaning on Microsoft to innovate on the cloud front so that we can leverage the best of breed solution coming out of Microsoft. So building on top of what Microsoft is building, based on what we are saying, what our customers are saying, has saved us ton of time, ton of money, and really helped us deliver amazing outcomes for our customers at a far faster pace.
And how can people find out more information about Microsoft partnership opportunities for healthcare partners?
You could email them at HealthcareIndExp@Microsoft.com. So that's healthcare industry experience, shortened HealthcareIndExp@Microsoft.com.
Sunny, how do people connect with you?
Well, you can reach out to me on sunny@KenSci.com. That's SUNNY @KenSci.com. Or you can just talk to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. On Twitter, I'm Sunny Neogi. That's my full name. And on LinkedIn, just search for me. Thanks so much.
Great. And I'll put all these links in the show notes so people can just click on it and get right to you.
Thank you.
Sunny, do you have any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
Before wrapping up, Avrohom, I want to kind of go back to where we started, right? The changes we are seeing in healthcare is seminal, right? It's really an amazing opportunity for all of us to push how we would be taken care of 20, 30 years from now or sooner, right? So we are doing this as much for ourselves and our loved ones as for anything else, right? And in that process of moving from a episodic healthcare to a more learning and closed loop healthcare, right? The FHIR innovation that the government is mandating is one of the most amazing things to happen in healthcare, right? And all of our customers that we talk to who are forward thinking are embracing them wholeheartedly, right? And in that process, there are always going to be technical challenges. There are always going to be challenges around data, right? So by no means is this going to be a walk in the park. This is transformation in its true sense, right? But I also do know that in healthcare, there are so many smart people that work so hard that none of these problems will be a problem 5 years from now, right? We are adding to that solution by doing our bit. And we know a lot of people are working super hard to make this real, including Microsoft, right? And I think our best bet to win in this transformation is to partner with each other, right? We understand some parts well. Microsoft does some parts really well. Our customers understand their patients really well, right? And when we bring such partnerships together, magic happens, right? And magic happens faster than we could think of, right? So with that, I'll close today.
Sunny, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom. I really enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you, Avrohom. Always a pleasure.